He's always got the time.
Is that because of his... I can't say that. He's got a watch the size of his watch.
Into his watch. It's a great watch, but he's always got the time.
This episode, I have the pleasure of talking to one of the most popular figures the AFLW has ever seen. She played 40 games across 4 clubs, kicked goals from everywhere, and achieved the ultimate in 2017. But her 7-year journey was faced with more adversity than most. To dive into that career, I introduce Sarah Perkins. Perko, thanks very much for coming down. It's great to see you again. It's been a little while since we've seen you on an AFLW field. What are you up to?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was nice to get the message. Just a nice retired athlete, I guess.
Yeah.
Just kicking back in the normal life. Just as a teacher's aide now, and I tried to play a bit of AFL footy, but retired and just enjoying life for what it is, and trying to get into the commentary scene and just sit back and watch the girls do their thing.
Nice. 7 years in. What's it like now not playing at all? Have you got an itch at all to play?
Yeah, I mean it's tough in the first couple of weeks when you watch footy and you see some forwards or teams not scoring. You're like, oh, could I? Couldn't I? Get me in there. What would my body? How would my body hold up? But look, it's a tough one. I think at the moment I'm in a really good place of just trying to mentally remove myself from that aspect of my life, although I'm really grateful for the experiences that I had. But some things away from footy probably started to cave in around it and really make the experience quite tough and mentally draining. So I have the itch. I'm already bored and I've only been retired for a couple of months, but I'm really enjoying trying to find some other avenues to stay involved in footy. But yeah, obviously seeing your mates out there kicking snags is always fun, and especially when you can see that they're enjoying their footy as well.
What is the transition like? Have you found it hard being away from the group? Because it is a little family when you're in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've obviously been really lucky enough to play for 4 football clubs, so I've been able to see how different it is across four elite clubs and the way they handle it. But for a lot of girls, if you you're delisted from the system and you don't get picked up again and you go back through the VFL system, you kind of have to hope that you're still holding on to your part-time or full-time job that you had before coming into being an athlete. So for me, I quit my job, I think, just before the start of season 6 maybe. So for me, I had to, I was then working at the Hawthorn Football Club, which I loved, but once you remove yourself from the system completely, then you have to start from scratch and you start to panic a little bit. But I'm really fortunate enough that Cedar College let me apply for a job there, and as an ex-student, I've loved being back in the school system around just sports-minded kids who love footy as much as I do. So for me, it's kind of ignited that passion again for just footy as a fan, and I guess as a mentor, and how I can help those kids with their dreams, what they and their aspirations.
Perfect role. You've gone from being a part-time AFLW player to then leaving your job aside. At what point does it transition to being a full-time player in your mind?
Well, I think you'll find that most clubs have slowly started to transition to that full-time player. A lot of clubs now, if you ask them, the girls are training, which I love. They're training during the day. I would have loved to have trained during the day and had a full day. We were lucky at the Hawks. We had one day. There was a full training session, but it was 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. So where girls are in the club now from 10 a.m. And, you know what I mean? Like you get time in the morning. You might not get time in the morning, but you now get time in the afternoon. So I think girls are really lucky now that it's starting to transition to be full-time footballers, and I think a lot of football clubs can hold on to that. But then also there are some clubs who are really respectful around the girls who still have their full-time and part-time jobs, so they give them the chance to train at night. So, I think we're slowly starting to see that shift. But, I think for me, when I quit my job and I became a full-time athlete, but it was part-time hours, there was a lot of, okay, what am I doing during the day? What can I do to keep my mind active, not, exhaust myself by doing also just nothing and sitting around on the couch. So, it was a bit of a challenge, but also, I just loved that I was able to adapt the role of being a full-time athlete, although we were part-time hours. And because
it is a long off-season, it's essentially a 10-week season, so there's a lot of downtime in that.
Yeah, there's so much downtime, but also I love to travel. So for me, it was like, hey, I've got a 6-week period where I could potentially take some time off and get out of the country and travel. So not having a part-time job or full-time job to the side, it made it a lot easier. But I think it's a big off season. So you never really fully stop. You just have to find the ways to keep training and then prepare for VFL footy if that's what the clubs want you to do.
I love the story of your career. It's obviously 4 clubs, as you mentioned. So we'll go back to the very beginning. Adelaide, you go undrafted. Can you talk us through the experience of applying for the draft and what it was like missing out initially?
Yeah. I obviously had a really, really good VFL season that year with the Devils. And we had the old school like women's academy that they started up, knowing that we were going to get this AFLW system, and all of us Victorian girls would come together. I think it was just in the off season that you train together. So it was really cool to be around elite players from the VFL comp all together, and then you nominate for the draft and you go through the process and you have to get all the details right. Like just something so simple as like taking a photo of yourself in like a passport photo, but you've got to smile and make sure you got all the correct details. And I think the panic of it and the adrenaline of it was great. And then I got invited to the draft. And then, I was sitting there around all my teammates and they had all their names called out. And I think I was one of 3 people in the room that day who'd been invited and didn't get drafted. So, it's not a great experience to look back on, but then I guess what followed of it from then was awesome. I had some really good phone calls with some people at Adelaide and some people behind the scenes who I didn't find out till after in my corner being like, you gotta draft her. So end up as a delisted or a free agent really at the Adelaide Crows, and I guess the rest is history, and I'm pretty thankful I landed up there.
And at that point, you were nominating for Victorian-based clubs because obviously it was a big deal to move your whole life interstate. So you were preferably only going to stay in Melbourne?
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't really know nominating for another state was an option. It you didn't really have a manager or anyone at the time kind of explaining what it was, other than the fact that you're a Victorian player, you need to nominate for Victoria unless you want to move and another club contacts you. So obviously there were girls who got picked up in the draft from Victoria, moved to other states. Obviously they had people who'd called them. I didn't have anyone pre-draft reach out to me, so I was just like, I'll just nominate to Victoria. My whole life's here of didn't really think moving away was something that I wanted to do. And I guess when you go undrafted and you're like, no, but I want to be in this competition, I've worked really hard to be able to play in it. Had a really good VFL season, thought I was in really good form. So, the whole draft process of picking the state you want to go to was obviously state-based. And, picking Victoria clearly wasn't the right option at the end of the day. But I guess, same thing could have gone if I nominated for any other state. I may not have been picked up as well. So, I'm kind of grateful I didn't get drafted in the end. And the Crows took a chance on me. And I think I was able to repay them in that first season too.
And is it true you reached out to them initially? Yeah,
that's it. So I basically, still to this day, I had a person just send me a message and was like, reach out to Darren Flanagan, who was our talent manager of the VFL, and get some names to call from people interstate. So my brother rang every state except for WA, just because, I don't know if selfishly I went, I think that's too far away, or if selfishly he was like, nah, kind of my sister on the other side of the country. So he reached out to all the football clubs, and then really at the same time, I think the Crows in the background were doing what they needed to do, and I guess him reaching out to the right person there and then them reaching out to me was, I guess, the best thing for it.
And was it tough to move your life interstate given it was such a short season to start with?
Yeah, but I also think it was I guess it was kind of like a nice big adrenaline rush. Hey, I'm moving out of home. I get to play for the Adelaide Football Club. I get to go and basically create a whole new life for myself. And I'm pretty introverted, which is, I think, funny when people hear that, but I'm introverted until you meet me. So going there, I was so nervous. I literally knew none of the girls. I'd obviously known of Chelsea Randall being this huge superstar footballer from WA, and obviously Erin Phillips being a basketballer. But outside of that, I didn't know any of the girls. And then also we had 9 of the teammates who were living in Darwin. So when I moved to Adelaide, I didn't even get to meet 9 of my teammates face to face for a couple of weeks. So it was scary. It was exciting, but I'm also really thankful that I was working for Reece Plumbing at the time, and they did a lot of work to transfer me over. So I had a job to go there. So it was a lot easier for me to transition. At least I knew that Monday to Friday I was going to be working in a plumbing store, which I knew a little bit about. And I knew that the boys there would keep me really grounded and humbled. So, it was an exciting experience, but also really nerve-wracking at the football club, not knowing anyone.
And you debuted round 1, so straight into it. I guess you did get overlooked in the draft, but you must have been confident in your own ability, because that sort of led you to that point anyway.
No, absolutely not. I thought I'd roll over there and never play a game or like work really hard to get into the team. I mean, there was only 7 games, so it was moved my life over there. There's 27 of us on the list, that it's 16 aside, and I think we may have been 5 or 6 on the bench in season 1. So, yeah, I didn't think I was a shoo-in to play more than one game of footy, really. So, obviously I was coming off a really good season in the VFL, like I said, and then I thought I had a pretty good pre-season, although it was a little bit interrupted towards the back end with a foot injury. But when you get I think our team name just kind of got sent out. I really don't. That first season's still a bit of a blur, so I don't really remember a phone call or any cool video that they do these days. But it was kind of like, here's the team sheet, your name's on it, and it's like, oh, cool, like my family have to come over now and watch me play. And we played against the Giants on a Sunday afternoon at Fairview Oval, which was a good start to my career.
That's incredible. I love when my assumptions are wrong, because then I get surprised and I learn. So you didn't necessarily think you were going to be playing. Did you feel comfortable out there in that first game?
From what I can remember, yeah, I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, Erin Phillips just came in and took the competition by storm. So any game where I was on the field and I got to watch her run around and do her thing was amazing. But like I said, I think at the end of the day, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself on the football field, and as a forward, you want to be taking marks and kicking goals, and I did that game. It may not have been my best performance, but I mean, once you kind of got that first win and the excitement of being a footballer out of the way, it was kind of just a nice emotional roller coaster going from there.
You led the goal kicking for the Crows that season. How much time did you put into your craft? Because the contact hours are pretty low at that stage. So are you going for kicks of the footy? What's your schedule look like? Yeah,
probably in that first season there wasn't a hell of a lot of craft sessions or extra craft sessions that I could do, just because of the work hours that I was doing. I was working 7 till 4 most days, and then going straight to training and trying to get in on my gym sessions and stuff. But I think I kicked 52 or 53 goals in that VFL season before leading into it. So, I mean, you'll always see me with a football in my hand on the field and trying to kick goals from wherever I can. It's kind of the one thing I've been doing my entire life. So, I would say my goal kicking's not the greatest. I could always put more effort into it, but I think as a young kid, I worked really hard to know how to kick goals with my brother. So, for me, it was kind of like I'd always done the work beforehand, and that was never really part of my game that I would ever worry about, although the accuracy probably doesn't line up. I'm really confident in my routine, and if I take a mark, although some people have to yell at me sometimes to take the shot, I'm really confident that if I go back, I can make the distance, and the accuracy is just something I think you always have to work on, whether it's nerves or the wind or that kind of stuff. But that first season there probably wasn't a lot of craft. Like you said, our contact hours weren't, they were nothing. So it was kind of just get in, take in as much as you can and learn as much as you can in the short amount of space that we were allowed, and then hope that you've done enough work to perform on game day.
And you walk away with the premiership, year 1. You must have been pinching yourself.
Yeah, I still laugh about it. It's a bit funny, isn't it? I think I was the only Victorian that year to win a flag too, which was nice, after obviously not being drafted by any of the clubs. But I still pinch myself every day, like that I got the chance to play in a AFLW grand final in the first year with people who are family now to me. Like, I love those girls at Adelaide so much, and although I've played for other clubs, Adelaide has really always felt like home for me, and I get back as much as I can and try and give back to them, because without that football club I wouldn't be in the position that I am. So I'm an honorary South Australian for life, which I love. But it's a definite pinch yourself moment, and want something that'll just be the best memory I think I ever have for the rest of my life.
You've mentioned Erin Phillips a few times. Obviously, her performance in every game, but grand finals especially, is incredible. How was she to actually play with?
I mean, I love Erin. She's like a big sister to me, and I'm really thankful for all the advice that she's given me. But like I said, anytime that I got to be in the forward line with her or just on the field and watch her go to work, it was special, really. Like, none of us knew about Erin the footballer until that first season, and she just came on, and you knew she was a footballer. I think even at training you were like, nah, no offense to her basketball career, but she's a footballer, and she's just a contested beast. Her leadership is probably the best I've ever come across, and she always just thought, I feel like she just had this look in her eye, and you knew that she's just going to do something special. So if Erin's on, I think the rest of us are on, and you just followed her leadership, which it's good to watch for, her to come in the back end of her basketball career at be one of the older girls in the competition, and do what she did is for 8 seasons is pretty remarkable and testament to her and the athlete that she is and the professional standards that she had, which she made sure to instill in all of us girls that were around her as well.
Surely it's time a medal's named after her. Do you think?
Well, I mean, I would have to say there should be one. Maybe for me, it's probably the grand final medal that sticks out for me. But I know, it's hard because the Victorian in me goes, "What about Daisy?" So they're both such talented footballers, and what they've done for our game is something that I think all of us have to be really grateful for, and we have to continue their legacy now that neither of them are playing. Obviously, Daisy's coaching, but. I think if there's any medal that we need to be naming after Erin, it's probably the grand final one. I think she had some pretty good runs in some grand finals. So
agreed on that. You then, after 3 seasons, get the chop from the Crows. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it's a premiership year, I only played 2 games. At the end of the season, 5 girls have to be delisted because they were the rules. It's not hard to sit back and go, oh, gosh, I haven't played since round 3. I'm probably need to start calling home and going, hey, I'm coming home. But yeah, like hard pill to swallow. Like I said, I love the Adelaide Football Club, and I wish I got more time there. And but I just understand that that's the nature of footy, and it's a business. So it was a tough conversation with Phil Harper and Matt Clark, the coach, and obviously calling the girls and going to say, hey, look, I've been delisted. I'm going home. I love you all, and hopefully cross paths real soon. And so yeah, it was a hard pill to swallow, and no one was interested. Like I said, if you don't play enough games, just the way the seasons go and the list spots, they're pretty limited. So I just came back home and played some VFL footy and kept training, and then nominated for the draft and didn't get drafted again, which I was like, oh well, we've been here before, something will come up. And I think after the draft I was a bit heartbroken because I've worked really hard to be in the system, and I've only gotten 3 short seasons at it, which if you really look at it, it's about a month, like a year and a half really. So I wanted to keep going, keep pushing, but knowing that down the track they were going to keep adding teams, I just went, oh well, just train really hard and see what happens and keep playing some really good VFL footy, and something will come of it. And I think thankfully for me, someone's looking out for me up in the sky, and I ended up as a train-on player at Melbourne, and really lucky for that experience. I think it helped create, I guess, the footballer I was going forward, in the experience of you go and you train really hard and you work really hard as the rest of the girls, but you know that you're not going to play until some people get injured. And unfortunately some people got injured, and I ended up playing 3 games for Melbourne, which was a gnarly experience.
Really unique situation. I think there was 4 or 5 ACLs that season, so the numbers dropped significantly. Melbourne made the finals, playing GWS. COVID hits just beforehand. There's a whole lot of girls on the injury list. You're already a top-up player in the side. And then Brooke Patterson, who was assistant coach, was emergency because they were that short. It's just a crazy time. How was that semi-final? No crowd. You're at Giants Stadium. Yeah,
well, I think we had 2 games with no crowd. So we had the game up in Alice Springs against Carlton, which is literally when...
That was just as it hit, wasn't it?
We were just as it hit, and we were allowed to fly up there, and we were allowed to play. And then we get there, and they're like, yeah, no one will be in the crowd. And girls were like, well, what about our families? It was Carlton, Melbourne, obviously 2 Melbourne teams flying up to Alice Springs to play footy up there to promote women's footy, and... So it was odd. There was like maybe 25 parents all on this just like grandstand bar area. Probably weren't even really allowed to tell people, but like you could hear them. They were there. So going to the Giants Stadium, it wasn't as odd as I think the first week, because there genuinely was no one but the coaches in the stands, and you could hear them screaming at you. And like you said, obviously Brooke, who was our development coach, was named as the emergency because our other top-up player, Kirby, at the time had popped a calf in training. So to go along with the 5 ACLs that we'd had, a couple of other injuries throughout the time, it was just such an odd experience, odd time. And then to be playing a final that's been brought forward, also just was such an odd week. All of us thought the season was going to be cancelled the week before, and then it wasn't. So, the 2 Irish girls went back home. So obviously that's also why we were short players as well. So, COVID times was scary. That whole football, it was. I honestly don't know how to explain it to you because it was just such an odd experience. And then obviously for that game, we come from behind, Lil kicks a goal with maybe a minute to go. Her first or second goal in AFLW too, which is crazy. And she celebrates.
Her first one earlier that game.
Yeah, so she celebrates like she's won us a flag, and it's the best thing ever, and I love it. The celebration's the best memory I think I have of my time at Melbourne. But we get back on the plane, land in Melbourne, you go home, and you've just been on this away trip. You're like, yeah, cool. Going forward, like we'll be going to Perth. Do we have enough players? Like who's coming back? Who's not? And then 2 hours after you land, it's gone. Nah, sorry, the season's finished. No winner, no nothing. Not even put us in a hub. Just those top 4 teams, whatever it was. It's just that's it. And it also happened in the men's system as well. Obviously, the boys' season got postponed. So, I think selfishly when I heard the word postponed, I was like, maybe we're postponed as well, and we'll get to come back. But they just cancelled our season, and it's it's unfortunate. I think because it would have been a good couple of finals to come with. Obviously, Freo were undefeated that year, so just a wild time to be alive, I think.
Definitely a wild ride. You did miss a detail in that game of your goal. So these were down, I think, 15 points with about 7.5 minutes left. Shelley Scott kicked a goal, and 15 points in a shortened game with no time on is actually a pretty big margin. So it cuts it to maybe 9, and then you get a free kick for holding the ball with about 3.5 minutes left. 40 out, tight angle. That's got to be one of your better goals, surely.
Yeah, it was a pretty good goal, but it wasn't the goal to win us the game, right? It was for me, it was just a normal goal, and after kicking it too, like one thing for me is I've always celebrated like a fool. So if you kick a really good goal and you're like, oh my gosh, we're like 3 points down, what's going on? You want to celebrate, but also we'd been told pre-game, like don't high five each other, like don't hug, like. You're like, what? Like, we're tackling each other. What do you mean we can't high five, we can't hug? Like, had to be like a fist bump. And I think you'll see us, I think if anyone knows what the video is, I think we celebrate, and then it's kind of like we all were like, oh, we actually can't do this. Like, kind of try and separate a little bit. And then, for me, after that goal, I just tried remember running to the bench, being like, nah, it's my rotation. Like, I've been told to get off. Trying to get off, and Pete, the forward coach, is screaming at me, "No, get back!" So, for me, that's my job at the end of the day, and that's something I've always prided myself on. That in the big moments, I want to be able to kick those goals, and it's probably one of the better ones I've kicked on a tight angle, but just it wasn't as important as Lil's in my mind. So, I just was happy to play my part for the team.
Good shout out for Peter McCoulier, one of the all-time greats. I'm hoping he listens. I give him a few calls every now and then. So
he's back coaching down at the Doggies. So he's obviously no one in the stands. Like not normally you'd get all the way to the bench and then you're sent back. And I remember sprinting. It's a solid effort to sprint from the other side of the ground after celebrating and composing yourself with all the adrenaline after you celebrate. And then I was like, got in the goal square and I was like, oh God, don't kick me the ball again. I don't want it. So I'm glad I didn't have to try and put the next one through, and just Lil could finish it off for the team.
Was it frustrating not to get a full shot at the Ds because you got a little taste, you fit in well in the group, and then you don't get extended?
Yeah, I think it's something they've probably changed since my time. I was a top-up player, so I wasn't a replacement player. It was literally I could only play if the team fell under 23 players available. So, I'm super grateful for Mick and Todd for calling me and asking me to come to training, and those girls as well for being so welcoming. And I loved my short stint there, and I would have loved to have gone back, but the nature of the competition is from someone who had been on a list for 3 seasons, and it's a 6-month contract, and there's no guarantee that you get the next year. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out for me to go back into the draft in Victoria, and the Suns kind of came knocking after obviously my 3 games of all right football, I guess, or just seeing that I could still play on that stage, and I would have loved to have continued and extended my time at the Ds. I do feel like I was a little bit robbed because the rule didn't allow me to be re-signed. I had to go back through the draft, which, obviously for me it's not something I really wanted to do without the certainty of being selected.
So 3 teams, 3 states, another move. How was Gold Coast? New journey.
Yeah, a new journey. Obviously, COVID's still hanging around, so to get there was a process in itself. Moving my life again to another state, not something I had on my bucket list. Obviously, not the most tan person rolling around. I don't really love the beach, so moving to the Gold Coast, anytime someone's like, yeah, but you're right near the beach. I don't like the beach. I'm afraid of the water. I hate sand, so odd move. But for me, again, it was something that I thought would be such a really valuable experience for me playing football down here. I thought I had plenty to share and offer the girls up there, but to get there in itself, it was hotel quarantine for 14 days. So fly to Brisbane, hotel quarantine, get my car sent up there about 2.5 weeks before I left to make sure that when I was out of hotel quarantine, I'd have my car. So, something odd again that I say I'm really grateful to experience, because not many people got to experience hotel quarantine, and I don't think I want people to experience it. But it was an odd experience to get there. But again, once I finally got down to the coast, met the girls. They were all really, really young. So for me, it's like being a teenager again. You're around all these, there were a few older girls, yes, but majority of the team was, say, under 25. So to be around young people, they just provide such energy, which I think gets instilled in the older players as well. So it was a fresh start, and I loved my time up there.
Was it really different at all the different clubs culture-wise?
Yeah, well, obviously Adelaide, I'm at 3 seasons, kind of helped build and set the foundation of those, especially those first 2 years we didn't have a hell of a lot of changeover. So to be a foundation player and you help build something from the start, to then go to Melbourne, which from the outside looking in was always like, damn, what are they doing there? Like, what are they doing? Like, how do we mirror that? How do we take what they've got and add it into, what we had at the Crows? And then to go to the Suns, which is, I think they were in their 2nd season, so such a brand new club. Also, the male club's only new as well. So to walk in there, it was kind of a big shock of, well, it's really different to how we do things back home in Melbourne. It's different to how we do things in Adelaide. And then it's, okay, well, how can I try and help, build from the culture that they've already got? So, like I said, it was kind of like walking into high school, and there's a lot of younger girls there, and they're the ones leading the culture and trying to build the foundation from the club, which, in my time there, it was nice. It was a nice change. It was footy's fun again. It's not as serious, but when we're here, we've got to get to work. So, they've all been pretty different.
And Hawthorn was the last step on that ride. Was that a more similar experience to the Suns, given they were a bit newer as well?
I think the last one at the Hawks was kind of almost like season 1 again. It was, you're coming in, nothing is there. Like, there is a blank page. It's kind of on those first 30 people to walk through the door as AFLW players. It's their job to build the culture, the foundation. What do we want to be known for? But also, I think the last step was really different, because the club as a whole was so welcoming, and the way the men's team got around us, they knew who we all were. There was no awkwardness. It was kind of, this is our space. It's not the boys' space. It's not the girls' space. You don't have to come in here and be really quiet and walk on eggshells. The club did a really, really good job of making sure that it was that 2 AFL teams, 4 teams, 1 club kind of vibe that I think everyone really strives for. So, for me, that was kind of the difference. And I guess the hours went up too. So in that last step at Hawthorn, it's, hey, we got to build it. We got to build it right. And the club's got to help build it right too, which, they've done a great job.
Across those 4 clubs, is there a club that you think, wow, I really enjoyed my time there particularly? I don't have a favourite really. I think they're all amazing for their own parts of my journey and parts of my pie. But I think I touched on it just before, like Adelaide has really always felt like home for me. And I think if I sit back now and I look at it, I lost my dad and my auntie towards the back end of my career. So if I sit back and I look at the fond memories I have of being able to look up in the grandstand and see
my family travel to every game, and my dad and my auntie, I think my whole career, the only games they missed were the one or two that I played in Perth. So, and the COVID one, sorry, but I think for me it's Adelaide has a special place because I want to flag there, and like I said, I'm really close with all the girls from that for the first couple of years as well. So they're not my favourite, but Adelaide for me is home. So it's the place that I guess gave me the opportunity, brought me out of my shell. But then, like I said, there's been fun parts along the way. Like obviously, playing in a couple of COVID games at the D's is such an interesting experience. And then, like I said, having to be a top-up player and have no idea what's going on every week, and you're there and you attend all the meetings and you come in late, and then it's like Mick comes over and taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, you're actually a chance to play this week. And then you start to panic and you're like, oh my God, no way. To then, go through hotel quarantine up at the Suns, get burnt like a lobster, run around in 40-degree heat, it's nice. And then, to end up back at Hawthorn is also really special, knowing that I grew up barracking for them my entire life. So, my dad loved that club so much. So to wear those colours at a place that, felt like home, I guess, spiritually as well, it's nice. I can't pick a favourite time.
40 games, 26 goals. Is there a career highlight individually? We spoke about the goal for the D's. Is there anything that comes to mind? I know you kicked an absolute ripper for Gold Coast from 50. This is about you, so you're allowed to talk yourself up. Is there something that is like, this is when I peaked?
Oh, this is when I peaked. Season 1 is, I guess, highlights really. I took 3 votes off Erin Phillips against Collingwood, which was nice. At one point, I thought I'd cost her the BNF in that first season. Being named as an All-Australian after being undrafted, I think is... although it was the first season, I've heard Kate McCarthy joke about it a few times. I'll take it. It's the first season. I think, if you look back at that first season and the calibre of players who were playing, there were some greats of our game. Yes, pre-AFLW, but there were some greats of our game playing in that season. Obviously, it's a lot different now. So, that stands out for me. And, it's hard to go past my goal from the centre square at the Suns. I still think I was robbed goal of the year, but to at least make it to the final 3. But as a forward, it's quite hard to sit back and go, oh, I did this. It's these are some things. There's a highlight for me. If anytime I'm kicking a good goal or taking a nice mark is great, but I don't have the hops like Taylor Harris and the rest of the girls. So unfortunately, it's just kicking snags from 40 out or 70 out if I'm lucky. What
was the prize for goal of the year that you missed?
Nothing.
There's no prize.
There was no prize. I think you just got a little medal at the end of the year, or invite to the Night of Nights, the Women's Brownlow or the BNF, whatever you want to call it. Again, it's cool to see. I think this year the prize has gone up to a hefty amount of money and some Virgin points, which would be lovely for someone who loves to travel. So, I don't think I missed out on anything great. It's not like back in the day if you took Mark of the Year, you won a car or something. But, it's a nice little medal at the end of the year. But, again, just being in a room with the top players is something always special. And to be recognised, I guess, for your work is what I guess we all strive for.
It's probably another aspect where the game has developed. There's probably no prize back then. You're slowly getting to the reward that is deserved. We've spoken about the contracts. Another thing is the social media and the pressures that come with it. Obviously, early days, there was a lot of backlash. People voiced not liking the fact that women were playing footy. How did you find being a leader in showing the world that girls can play footy?
It was nice, I guess. Instagram in the first season rolled out and gave us all a blue tick, which I love. It's something to show off. I got a blue tick. People think I'm special, but I'm overly not. I'm not the greatest on social media. You post what you need to post, but my entire life I've tried to be really private and keep my life in-house. And obviously when you're trying to be an athlete and you're trying to promote a game that's so new, you can't do that. You've got to be able to show personality and you've got to be able to post about the game and try and get people there. So, I think I played my part in that and being able to promote our game. And, obviously, like I touched on, I celebrated like an idiot. So every time I kicked a goal in that first season. So I think that was just my way of trying to show my personality on the football field and the enjoyment that it was bringing to my life, which obviously then leads to being posted on social media, which then obviously leads to trolls and keyboard warriors, which I've had to deal with for the last 8 years, which has been lovely. I enjoy now being able to bite back and call out any person who seems to think they have something to say about any of our girls, or if they have something to say about me on any posts that may pop up. So, yeah, I mean, we're in such a short, we're at the start of our journey, and I think that comes with trolls and keyboard warriors, and they're always going to be there. There's always going to be some person who doesn't appreciate women running around on a football field, but we're not trying to stand out to them. We're trying to stand out to the young girls who are playing junior footy or who are in primary school or starting Auskick that want to play out, want to play footy one day. But also it's to the young boys who, for me, are the most important ones, who are allies. So for me, I have 2 young nephews who have been super confused for their lifetime of not knowing which football club to go for. But, my nephew who's 7 has been around since the start. So, you got to see part of my time at Adelaide, and for him to be able to go out and be like, can we go have a kick? And then he could be Max Gawn 1 minute and then he could be Chelsea Randall the next. I think for me, that's the most important thing that I think we're all trying to grow for.
Very well said. How did you deal with the criticism when it did come? Because it's obviously not nice to be on the receiving end, and it's got to have some sort of effect.
Yeah. I think it depends on what it is. I think sometimes you could just have no idea that something's been posted about, and you start getting all these notifications. So I'm a big one now for, I don't have any notifications on my phone in terms of social media. Like I said, I don't post a hell of a lot now. So but again, when you're playing, you have to post, right? Like I said, if we've won, I want to post about winning. If I've kicked a really good goal, I want to post about it without having the fear of what might be said. So, sometimes it was just post and hope that I don't see anything, or my family don't see anything. Or friends who I've grown up with outside of footy don't see anything bad. And I think for me, that's the one thing that's kind of, I never really tried to let it affect me. Like, yes, some things affect you and you're just like, oh, not again. Or that's really original to call me overweight and think that I shouldn't be an athlete or a role model, without taking into consideration that if you go and look at athletes across the world, we're all different shapes and sizes, and the Olympics is a prime example of that. So, I've had to deal with them, and 90% of the time you want to say something, and you might get a message from a media manager who just says, just leave it, we're dealing with it in the background, we've seen it, we're getting it removed. Like I said, going back to playing VFL this year, it was really nice to be able to go, no, I can say whatever I want now and no one's going to tell me off, and if they do, it's like, oh, sorry, I've had enough. So, which happened again, unfortunately, when Essendon, going there for VFL, posted something about me, and it's had plenty of views, which is great. It's great to build up Essendon's VFLW and AFLW content for them for probably the year. But obviously, again, it's just like, how am I still going through this? Get over the way that I look. I am the way I am, and I've worked really hard to look the way that I do, which was also very publicised in the first couple of seasons as well. So, they're not easy to deal with. But at the end of the day, I've never really wanted my family, or especially my mum, when she jumps on social media, to read some pretty disturbing comments.
Yeah, pretty frustrating. What has your journey been like? There was a time where you were pushing for the draft and you were going through your fitness journey. What was that experience like?
It was a lot. It wasn't, for me, like, I didn't think that I was really unfit before. I just let my body go, I guess, and I wasn't training as hard as I was as a junior. And then I'm really thankful for my coach at the Devils, Brendan Major, who just came to me and was like, you're a really talented footballer. I believe in you. I want to work with you, and we're going to do it the right way. So, he wasn't pushing me to be on some fad diet or crazy, like starve yourself fasting or whatever. He was just like, no. He was, we're just going to do this the right way. Let's look at this. What can we cut out? What can we add in? Where can we go to the gym? I can help you write a gym program. Just things like that I think when you don't have the elite junior pathway that we now have in place for our young male and female players coming through, you have to learn the hard way. And I learnt the really hard way. And, like I said, it wasn't as if I'd gotten really unfit and wasn't playing footy. I was still playing footy. I just wasn't training as hard as I could, or looking after my body in the right way. So, it's something I'm kind of dealing with now on the other end of it, that it's I got to enjoy running again. I got to enjoy going to the gym again. not because I want to be an elite athlete, but because I want to be the best version of myself. So, I guess if I didn't have major at the time pushing at me to play senior footy in the VFL or the VFLW the VWFL as it was called back in the day, I don't push to end up in the AFLW competition.
And during your time in the AFLW competition, you were known probably externally as Tex.
Yeah.
That was the nickname. How did that sit with you?
Um,
And where did it originate?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've tried to avoid it as much as I can just because I really don't know the background of it. But I do think it was in the first game. I think it may have been, I don't know if it was Source Jacobs or Mark Rashuda. They were commentating, and someone said he got a bit of text about them, which I think was in comparison to Taylor Walker. And since leaving the club, I love Tex. I love what Tex is about, and I think by the time we were at the club, we didn't really cross over a hell of a lot. I'm not sure he liked it. I'm not sure if I liked it because I just wanted to be myself. I didn't want to be compared to a male athlete, which looking back, I think it was an honour to be compared to a male athlete. He is an amazing player, and I think his attributes of being a strong contested mark, being able to kick left and right foot from outside 50 is something that I loved to be able to do on the football field as well. So, I shut it down because I wanted to be Sarah or I wanted to be Perko. I didn't want to be Tex. But then if you look at it as well, there's a country singer, Tex Perkins. So, I didn't originate it myself. I didn't walk into a football club and go, start calling me Tex. But, I think I've been able to do it right now where a lot of people will call me either Sarah or Perko, which I think is nice as well. Like you can't pick your nicknames, but to be able to semi-shut one down and go, no, I don't. Like we already have a Tex. Let's park that. Let me go buy something different. So, there is some people who still ask me about it or call me Tex, and I'm a lot less relaxed about it now than I probably was in the first couple of years. But yeah, I like that. It's nice to have a nickname and people know who you are, but yeah, it's also nice to be known by your name and not something that's already taken.
Yeah, I think you've definitely forged your own now. This year's been an incredibly compressed fixture, hard to keep up with when there's almost a game on every single night. I think it's 10 weeks, but 11 rounds, and girls playing 3 times in 9 days. But are you keeping an eye on it?
To be honest with you, it's probably the most female football that I've watched out of all of the seasons. I think season 1 I watched a lot of football and then went into watching the men's footy, and it was a lot for me. I felt like my life was evolving around AFL, and I needed to take a step back for that. So if I compare season 9 now to seasons 2 to 8, I don't think I watched any football in that time. To now, I'm thankfully doing a few commentating gigs, so you have to pay attention to footy, which is nice. But it's also just nice to sit back and enjoy and watch it, and I can do that from the outside because there's no pressure of being like watching a game being like, how can I crack into a side, or how can I be playing, or what could I have done better. So it is a lot. I joked, I think a couple of weeks back on radio, that the girls are doing fish and chip shop hours at the moment. They're Tuesday to Sunday. For those who don't know, fish and chip shops are closed on Monday on Melbourne. I'm a classic dad joke, I would assume. But yeah, I mean, it's been hard to keep up with the compressed fixture, and thankfully my body never had to go through that. We did during COVID, and I hated it because it's a lot. It's a quick turnaround. Football's a 360 degree game, so you get hit from everywhere. To try and recover from little knocks and stuff is quite hard. So it's been nice to sit back and watch some games and just be an outsider and a fan, really.
What have you made of that fixture when you've got girls like Bree Davey, who are probably the best talent in the league? Well, she's won an MVP. She gets concussed and misses 3 games. It's not ideal. You want your best players playing.
Yeah, for me, that's the part, right? We keep hearing the same old argument from the people on the outside. We don't score enough. It's boring. All the same crap we've heard for 9 seasons when it's not. It's not. We're just a different brand to the AFL, and I think that's what people struggle with. So, I think I was watching that game when Breezer went off, and I hated it because I was like, she's worked so hard in the off-season to get back from some injury troubles, and then, you look, the likes of her gets injured. I think Katie Brennan missed on the weekend, whether she was rested, and then Emma Kana gets hurt down in Tassie. So for me, it's the injury concerns that we're having, and I think it's been a big part of our game for 9 seasons, ACL injuries and injuries just in general, because, we're all still learning to be professional athletes and we're learning how to deal with those. So, for me, I'm not a fan of the compressed fixture. I'm happy that the girls are getting 11 games, but I think the pressure that we're now putting on their bodies is a lot more that we've ever asked from them before. And I think if you compare it to the men's fixture, the men only get 3, I think, through their 24-round season that they have. Obviously they get 2 byes. We don't get a bye in our game at all. And then they only have a certain number of 5-day breaks that they're allowed to play. So I understand that the AFL is trying to work with the PA and the players to give the girls more games, and I respect that. But I also think at some point you have to sit back and go, you would never force Nick Dacos, Paddy Cripps, Holly Reid, any of these amazing men that we have in our game. You would never ask them to do what you're asking the girls to do it. And I think if you ask the male players, they would tell you to go and get stuffed and they wouldn't do it. So I admire the girls for pushing through and getting it done and working their asses off to play the 11 games. But yeah, I think it's to the detriment of the competition when you don't have the best players out there.
Definitely agreed. Do you have a tip for an AFLW Premier this season?
Well, they lost on the weekend, so if you had asked me before the weekend, I would have said that the Crows were going strong, but I also think they played a ripper game against the Lions. The Lions have also been scary good, which, as an ex-Crows player in that rivalry there, hurts my soul a little bit. But for me, it's North. I think North have worked really, really hard since coming in to get it right, going after some of the best players in the competition to create this super team, and I think they've finally started to gel, those girls that have been there from the start. So it hurts me not to say one of the teams that I used to play for, but I think North at the moment would be my tip.
Yeah, I think I agree there, and that would make Libby Birchett a 3-time premiership player at 3 different clubs, which would be a record I would love to see. Now, what is it that's made Adelaide so successful for so long? Because these teams, Adelaide, Brisbane, North, that we're still talking about, have really been the top teams, the benchmark for most of this league's history. What is it, do you think?
I'd like to say that we got it right in the first season and in the culture that we worked really hard to create. I'm really thankful that just at the back end of last year, Courtney Cramey, who's a past player, premiership player at the Crows, she's now working there as a coach, messaged me and said would I be involved in having a chat to some of their younger players who have come in now to just talk about my time at the club and help them to build on that foundation of the culture that we created in season 1. And I think every year they've just added a layer to it. And I think we obviously had Beck for the first 2 seasons, and then Doc came in and he just not changed it, but he said, I like it, but how about this? And I think when you've got a strong leader in Matt Clark standing at the front, who's, played AFL himself, he's been working around the men's team for a very long time, you listen. I think he got it right in the way that he communicated his game plan and the way that he wanted us to play footy. I mean, that's easily said than done. He comes in and he wins a flag in the first season that he's there, and then a couple of years down the track he wins another one. So, I think it's a testament to the club in getting the right people in season 1, but then it's also in employing the next right people to come in, or the draft picks that you're getting to fit the mould that you already have. So, yeah, it's an interesting one because I couldn't give you a definite answer other than the fact that I just think in that first season we worked really hard to set a nice foundation for people to continue to add layers to, and then as a past player to have been called back a few times, and it's still kind of the same trademark, but it's just every year they're adding their own flair to it, which it makes me smile because you still feel a part of the club, which I think is something that the Crows have done a really good job of always making sure that they include their past players back and keep them involved.
Before I let you go, when you do research for a podcast, you come across random things, and I saw a little comment about your tattoos, and you had 32 at the stage that I saw. There's potentially more now, and there were some football ones mentioned. What football-related tattoos have you got?
Yeah, I've got I haven't counted as of recently. I did think on the way here he's probably going to ask me about my tattoos because I had to come up with a quirky fact while I was at the Hawks. So I think there's probably 35 or something. I got a few when I was in London. So, I've got the number 19 tattooed on me because I was the 19th player to play at the Crows. I've got 33 tattooed on me because I wore jumper number 33 at the D's. Obviously, at a time when I didn't think that I'd get back to playing AFLW. I've got a giant crow on my shoulder with Premiers 2017 on my back. With if you ever look at any photos of me from behind in a football Guernsey, you can see the wing coming out the back. Planned, of course. And then I've got the first game that I played against the Giants in Roman numerals above an arrow, and then underneath it I've got my VFLW flag. So, I've probably got to go and add a few more jumper numbers to it, considering I wore 28 for 2 different clubs, and it's kind of the number that I've had for a very long time. And then I was lucky enough to wear 23 at the Hawks. So, yeah, I've got a few rolling around, but like I said, they obviously all mean something. So, all of my tattoos mean something, which I guess it's great for my mum, who's never really been a big fan of them, but understands that they all mean something. So, there's a few floating around.
Incredible. You've had a great journey. I've loved learning all about it. Love that you've made the Perko name your own, and really appreciate your time. Thanks very much for the chat.
Thank you for having me.